So probably for the 1,000th time during this election, Bill Clinton has put his foot in his mouth once again by throwing Bernie Sanders under the bus in an effort to evade criticism that him and Hillary Clinton are receiving by a heckler for the 1994 crime bill. Trying to woo young voters in a key swing state, Clinton was interrupted by a protester shouting he cannot vote for someone who sends thousands of people to prison. Hillary didn't vote for the 94 crime bill, even though Senator Sanders did. The former president shot back as a heckler was removed from the rally. Bubba's remark to highlight divisions between his wife and Sanders won't do much to build their alliance, especially as Sanders has been diligently campaigning for Hillary Clinton and trying to convince his young supporters to back Clinton and move past their feelings of being shunned by the DNC and the Clinton campaign during the primary. So I don't understand why he's assuming that this heckler is a Bernie Sanders supporter, and I don't know how Bernie Sanders voting for the crime bill would somehow clean Hillary Clinton's hands. She's still guilty for what she did, and Bernie Sanders does play a role, but by just saying that Bernie Sanders voted for the crime bill, you're being incredibly disingenuous. Look, let me remind you here. So as First Lady, Hillary Clinton lobbied for the 1994 crime bill because it helped Bill Clinton get elected. He was campaigning on it, and Clinton did not foresee the role that it would play in increasing mass incarceration, that or she just didn't care, it's probably the latter, but Bernie Sanders did. In fact, he warned them about it and said that it would lead to mass incarceration. However, seeing that there is nuance in the world, he stated that there were certain provisions in the bill that he really wanted to pass. Here's what he said about it.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong opposition to the McCulloch Amendment and, in fact, in strong opposition to this so-called crime prevention bill. Mr. Speaker, let us be honest, this is not a crime prevention bill. This is a punishment bill, a retribution bill, a vengeance bill. My friends, we have the highest percentage of people in America in jail per capita of any industrialized nation on earth. We've beaten South Africa. We've beaten the Soviet Union. What do we have to do? Put half the country behind bars? Mr. Chairman, how do we talk about the very serious crime problem in America without mentioning that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty in the industrialized world by far, with 22% of our children in poverty and 5 million kids hungry today? Do you think maybe that might have some relationship to crime? All the jails in the world and all the executions in the world will not make that situation right. We can either educate or electrocute. We can create meaningful jobs, rebuilding our society, or we can build more jails. Mr. Speaker, let us create a society of hope and compassion, not one of hate and vengeance. I have a number of serious problems with the crime bill, but one part of it that I vigorously support is the Violence Against Women Act. We urgently need the $1.8 billion in this bill to combat the epidemic of violence against women on the streets and in the homes of America.
This bill would have put more police on the street, would have locked up violent offenders so they never could get out again, would have given more prison construction money available to the states and as well as the federal government, but also would have dealt with prevention, giving young people something to say yes to. It's a very well thought out crime bill that is both smart and tough.
So I mean, as the article rightfully points out, saying something like this, trying to throw Bernie Sanders under the bus to make Hillary Clinton look better, is not going to unify the party. I mean, is it not enough that she rigged the primary and cheated Bernie Sanders out of the nomination? I mean, do you have to complete and utterly vilify Bernie Sanders at every opportunity you can just to make Hillary Clinton look better? Look, Hillary Clinton looks like shit because Hillary Clinton is a bad politician and she's culpable in many of these policies that were not progressive. You're culpable in many of these policies that are not progressive, Bill. Let me remind you that Bill Clinton is a president that literally wanted to privatize Social Security, but fortunately, the Monica Lewinsky scandal stopped him from doing that because he just didn't have the political capital to take on such a huge battle. That's further than George W. Bush, because everybody talks about how George Bush wanted to partially privatize Social Security. Nobody's talking about how Bill Clinton tried to do that as well. And furthermore, Bill Clinton gutted welfare. He signed welfare reform into law that gutted welfare. And furthermore, you campaigned on a bill that further increased mass incarceration in the United States. So here's what I don't understand. Why did he have to invoke Bernie Sanders in order to defend his wife? Couldn't he just have said, look, Hillary Clinton admits that that bill, she shouldn't have lobbied for it. It was a mistake. And, she realizes the role that she played in mass incarceration, but what she's going to do now is take steps to reverse the role that that bill played in increasing mass incarceration. Why couldn't you have just said something like that? Or just gave like a non-answer or ignored him altogether? Why did you choose to throw Bernie Sanders under the bus? And look, this is a consistent pattern for Bill Clinton. Let me remind you what else he did during this election. He implied that Bernie Sanders supporters were sexist. He compared them to Tea Partiers. And he also implied that we're so extreme that we would want to kill Wall Street executives. No, Bill, we want them to just be reined in and not be able to crash the economy. I think that's pretty reasonable. I don't think that makes us extremists. He also committed election fraud in broad daylight in Massachusetts by campaigning for Hillary Clinton inside of polling booths. And when you go inside of a polling booth to shake people's hand and you tell them to pull the lever for Hillary Clinton, that's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. We have these laws in place because this can lead to intimidation. Candidates can go into polling booths and intimidate voters. Now, I'm not saying that Bill Clinton did that, but that's why we have these laws to prohibit candidates from campaigning, because it can be very authoritarian if you allow it to happen. So I don't get what is Bill Clinton's problem. He continues to put his foot in his mouth, and Hillary Clinton continues to use him as a campaign surrogate. Okay, stop. Go home, Bill. Okay, nobody wants to hear what you have to say. And another thing that always bothers me about Bill Clinton is that he's always credited by, helping the economy, when nobody talks about the tech boom that happened in the 1990s that definitely was beneficial for the economy. Now, his policies, like NAFTA, they were neoliberal. Bill Clinton is a neoliberal, and he unilaterally moved the Democratic Party to the right. And people thank him for this and say, look, he made Democrats electable again. Well, you didn't have to do that. You could have just stayed where you are, remained FDR Democrats, and you would have won, because after seeing that trickle-down economics doesn't work, people would get tired of Republicans, and then they would be coming back to you with open arms. But instead, you decided to move the party to the right, and then the party hasn't shifted back. In fact, as Republicans move to the right, Democrats are following them. So as long as Democrats aren't as crazy as Republicans, even if they're shitty, even if they're corporatists, even if they're sellouts, then they can critique you if you don't vote for them or don't like them or vote third party. Not acceptable. And Bill Clinton is a part of the problem. Bill Clinton is a part of the system that disenfranchises voters, that has led to mass income inequality, mass incarceration, and all he can do is place blame on other people. And this is what Hillary Clinton does too. Well, my foundation, we have these conflicts of interest going on, but look at the Trump Foundation. I'm sick of it. For once, just take responsibility for your actions.